this is a part of an old bag that I had. I washed it and then took it apart, and yeah, I have a sewing machine. I have another piece of like felt, I think around here somewhere, to put on the inside, just to make the cover a little bit thicker. And I have some, I should have pulled this out ahead of time. Okay, because this will be edited. Okay, so I have this elastic cord stuff that I bought for this, actually. So I'll probably use like this creamy color that will go with this fabric. But yeah, I hope to show you at the end of this video the completed cover, if nothing else. Okay, so I watched some videos as I planned to do this like 2 years ago. First, I'm using the side of the old cover as a guide to mark out where to cut. This clear ruler is helpful, leaving extra room for error and sewing the finished edges. And to do the cutting, I use 2 X-Acto knives and like this clear plastic ruler. My suggestion is you use a metal ruler if you can, folks. This is my amateur ghetto first attempt, so my edges are not straight, and I had to cut a few times. Also, since it's a plastic ruler, the X-Acto knives do cut into it. Okay, so here I'm trying to decide on the inner layer. This material is very thin and flimsy, so I wanted to back it with something. I only had paper, and I picked the white cardstock. Then I measure everything against the notebooks to cut 2 sides, just to make sure it'll fit once it's closed. Sorry, my head got in the way here, but I'm marking out where to glue down the paper. I glue it down to the fabric with a glue stick, and then while it dries, I use this old book I have lying around, to hold the paper down. I start preparing the threads and the cords. I practice like sewing on some scraps to make sure I have the right needle. It's been a while since I've hand sewn, so I made a mistake here and made a knot in the thread before I put it through the needle. So this is me fixing it. But yeah, what I had done a little earlier but off camera was glue a bit of cardstock to an extra scrap of fabric. And so I'm just testing that out to see how the needle will go through. And this is all happening, again, while the glue is drying. I think I mentioned my sewing machine in the plan with me, and my sewing machine is out of commission, so I have to hand sew. I bought a set of sewing machine needles, but lost them. So now sizing up the space I have to finish the edges. Like I need to have enough space to sew and still cover the notebooks once it's closed. The thread I used, I'm like eyeing it, so 3 times the length of the sides. But first, I make some holes for the elastic cords, 2 at the top, 1 in the middle, and 2 at the bottom. I know I marked 3 in the middle, but I didn't wind up using 3. The tool I'm using is not an owl. I was not able to purchase one when I was buying all of this stuff, so link in the description to all of my supplies. I told you this was ghetto. And I want the cover to have 4 bands inside, so I measure out 5 times the width of the material of the cord. Then push the cords through the top and bottom holes alternately twice. So there's 2 holes. You gotta push the cord through each hole twice, tying it off in the middle at the end there. I used the owl to help. Having brads would have been nice, but again, didn't have any, so my holes are not reinforced. That's fine. This was my first attempt. So now I'm checking the tightness, just to make sure that I don't tie it too tight so that the notebooks I insert will fit. And then I'll cut off the excess cord. Next, I start working on the closure, what will keep it closed. I wanted a cord to pull across the length of the notebook to hold it together. So using a bit of extra material and cardstock, I cut and glue this little slip of paper, or this little slip holder, I should say, and then I poke holes on either end for the cords to go through. And this was a last-minute idea from a YouTuber that I happened to be watching at the time, so I'll link them down in the description below. Then you push the ends of the cord from the outside in through the center hole of the cover. Again, no brad, so it's a little difficult. Tie it off and adjust for tightness. So again, that's me putting the notebooks in to make sure everything will fit and not be too loose, but be tight enough to hold everything closed. Okay, so that was day 1. Day 2 was sewing to finish the edges. With no sewing machine, I used 2 pins to hold the ends of the fabric folded over as I do a basic running stitch. I started while I was sitting and watching something, and I got a whole side done. And then I realized this is not a blog, this is kind of how-to, so though I can do it like this, it's probably not as easily seen by you guys, but that's okay. Later, I moved to my desk, or back to my desk, for a better view. Okay, so here we are, like I said. I have some issues. It's been a while since I've hand sewn, and even making the knots was difficult sometimes. My stitches weren't always straight or even, and I didn't always measure the right amount of thread that I needed. Like here in this first time, this is obviously not going to last the entire edge of the notebook, but that's one of the plus sides of doing this at the desk in front of the computer. I can go to YouTube or the internet and figure out how to add more thread, which I do. But yeah, nothing was perfect. There were a couple of times where I went in the wrong direction with the needle and had to somehow back out, but this was good enough for our first attempt that, I'm not selling this or anything like that. And this is future me telling you it has held up. Again, double checking to make sure I leave enough space so the cover covers my notebooks, and putting in the pins to hold my place, and a good frame of reference with the thread is at least twice as long as the length of the fabric you're stitching, and that's it. The rest of this is sewing. So you can watch that. I did include it, but if not, I'll put the timestamp on the screen here, and I'll be back to show you the final view of my new TN bullet journal cover. Alright guys, here is the finished cover. I'll show you how it works in a second, but yeah, so this is the cover side, the back side. Make sure it's all on camera. Yeah, the lighting has changed as it often does, always. But yeah, so I guess the closure. Let's get a close up of my untidy running stitch around all the finished edges. So yeah, and holding up, this is the inside, the 4 bands here. The cardstock I used to make it. I don't know that I really needed to do this now that it's done, but yeah. So if this comes out, like the glue is holding out pretty good, but if this comes out, I'll be okay. But yeah, so here's the stitching, what it looks like on the inside. So again, not perfect. I didn't cut this material perfectly, and I didn't sew it perfectly, so it's not perfect, but it is big enough to be a cover, to cover the notebooks I want to insert here. So there's the 4 bands. I really should cut this down. This is for the closure. So yeah, now to show you how it works. Right now I've only got the 2 inserts, but modeling this after the other cover that I had that I actually bought. So yeah, I take anywhere from 2 to 4 inserts depending on what notebooks I'm using for what purposes. That's one, and at this point I don't want the other notebook to be on the same cord, so where am I? Yeah. Is that it? Yes, okay. As you can see, there's plenty of room around the edges, so when we close the notebook, everything is the edges of the notebooks are covered quite nicely. And to hold it closed, I have my cheap little handmade ghetto closure thing. One thing that would have made this all much easier is having the brads, so this wouldn't pull and gather here at the top and bottom and in the middle. But this material is like, this is like a thin canvas, maybe cotton canvas, maybe, actually no, more like a linen canvas. So I have another piece of this, so if I decide to make another cover, then I can. Another thing I might do, and that's what it looks like. Another thing I might do is put some pockets one day here. The old cover I had did come with pockets, and I didn't put a lot in them, but when traveling, just keeping the pens that I'm using there is nice. So yeah, this is it, my cover making video. Let me know what you think. A lot of it, like half of this video, is sewing, so, but yeah, let me know what you think. I need to explain some parts more. I didn't want this to be too long, so I didn't I sped up obviously, but not as fast, not 16 times speed like I do for the Plan With Me videos. This is only 4 times speed. But yeah, if there were parts that you would like to see more, I can potentially put up another version that's not as fast in those sections, like inserting the cords, or pitting the fabric so I can sew. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Oh, like this video if you liked it. Do hit that like button. Leave a comment. If you don't know what to say, you can leave me a little red heart, or any other emoji that helps with my algorithm. And also subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.